Welcome to Day Music, and we will be talking about Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd are an English rock band formed in London in 1965. They are considered by some to be the greatest progressive rock band of all time. 4 Pink Floyd albums topped the US Billboard. 205 topped the UK Albums Chart. Their hit singles include Arnold Lane 1967, See Emily Play 1967, Money 1973, Another Brick in the Wall, Part 2 1979. Not Now, John 1983. Waters and Mason met while studying architecture at the London Polytechnic at Regent Street. They first played music together in a group formed by fellow students Keith Noble and Clyde Metcalfe, with Noble's sister Sheila Richard Wright, a fellow architecture student, joined later that year. And the group became a sextet, Sigma. 6 Waters played lead guitar, Mason drums, and Wright rhythm guitar. Later moving to keyboards by 1966, the group's repertoire consisted mainly of rhythm and blues songs. They began to receive paid bookings, including a performance at the Marquee Club in December 1966. Peter Jenner, a lecturer at the London School of Economics, noticed them. Jenner was impressed by the sonic effects Barrett and Wright created. With his business partner and friend Andrew King became their manager, Arnold Lane, with their B-side Candy and a Current Bun on 10 March 1967 on his Columbia label. EMI Columbia released The Piper at the Gates of Dawn in August 1967. The album reached number 6. Spending 14 weeks on the UK charts, Pink Floyd continued to draw large crowds at the UFO Club. However, Barrett's mental breakdown was by then causing serious concern. Barrett's depression worsened as the tour continued. In December 1967, Pink Floyd added guitarist David Gilmour as the 5th member in January in 1968. Black Hill Enterprises announced Gilmour as the band's newest member. Intending to continue with Barrett as a non-performing songwriter, working with Barrett eventually proved too difficult, and matters came to a conclusion in January while en route to a performance in Southampton, when a band member asked if they should collect Barrett. Barrett agreed to leave in 1968. Pink Floyd returned to Abbey Road Studios to complete their second album. A saucer full of secrets, Norman Smith encouraged them to self-produce their music, and they recorded demos of new material at their houses, as neither Waters nor Mason could read music. They invented their own system of notation. Atom Heart, Mother was Pink Floyd's first number 1 album in Britain. The band spent long periods working on basic sounds, or a guitar riff medal was released in October 1971, and reached number 3, spending 82 weeks on the UK chart. Obscured by Clouds is the soundtrack to the 1972 film La Vallée. The band recorded the album between May 1972 and January 1973. The LP became an instant chart success. The Dark Side of the Moon is one of the most commercially successful rock albums of all time, a US number 1. It remained on the Billboard Top LPS and Tech chart for more than 14 years during the 1970s and 1980s in Britain. It reached number 2, spending 364 weeks on the UK chart in 1975. Pink Floyd bought a 3-story group of church halls at 35 Britannia Row in Islington in 1976. They recorded their 10th album, Animals, in their newly finished 24-track studio. The album concept originated with Waters, loosely based on George Orwell's political fable Animal Farm. Released in September, it reached number 1 in both the UK and the US. The Wall was released on 30 November 1979. It topped the Billboard chart in the US for 15 weeks, reaching number 3 in the UK. It is tied for 6th most certified album by RIAA, with 23 million certified units sold. The Wall was adapted into a film, Pink Floyd, The Wall, in 1982. Waters suggested a project with the working title Spare Bricks. It was originally conceived as the soundtrack album for Pink Floyd, The Wall, the onset of the Falklands War. Waters changed direction and began writing new material. The tension within the band grew. Gilmour recorded his second solo album, About Face, in 1984. Mason released his second solo album, Profiles. In August 1985, Gilmour, Mason, Waters and Rourke met for dinner in 1984 to discuss their future. Waters left the restaurant thinking that Pink Floyd could continue after Waters had finished the pros and cons of hitchhiking. A Momentary Lapse of Reason was released in September 1987. The album reached number 3 in the UK and the US. In January 1993, they began working on a new album, The Division Bell. In Britannia Rose Studios, The Division Bell reached number 1 in the UK and the US and spent 51 weeks on the UK chart. It was Pink Floyd's last tour, ending on 29 October 1994. On 2 July 2005, Waters, Gilmour, Mason and Wright performed together as Pink Floyd at Live 8, a benefit concert raising awareness about poverty. In February 2006, Gilmour said that Pink Floyd were over, citing his advancing age and his preference for working alone. He and Waters repeatedly said that they had no plans to reunite. Barrett died on 7 July 2006 at his home in Cambridge. Aged 60, no Pink Floyd members attended his funeral in 2011. Pink Floyd and Amy launched an exhaustive re-release campaign under the title Why Pink Floyd? Earl and Miss Sponsi. Right-swing the back catalogue in newly mastered versions in November 2013. Gilmour and Mason revisited recordings made with Wright during the Division Bell sessions to create a new Pink Floyd album. They recruited session musicians to help record new parts and generally harness studio technology. Waters was not involved. The Endless River was released in the following year, though it in 2022. Gilmour and Mason reunited as Pink Floyd alongside Pratt and the keyboardist Ned and Sonny to record the single Hey. Hey, Rise Up. Protesting Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2023, Waters released The Dark Side of the Moon Redux, a new version of the album, in October 2024. Pink Floyd agreed to sell their catalog to Sony Music for approximately $400 million. The sale included the rights to Pink Floyd's recorded music. Pink Floyd's music has been labeled psychedelic pop, progressive rock and progressive rock. Author Mike Cormack claims that Pink Floyd likely have the greatest range in all of rock music. Pink Floyd experimented with their sound throughout their career. The band were innovators of progressive rock during the 1970s and ambient music during the 1980s. Their second single, The Emily Play, premiered at the Queen Elizabeth Hall in London. On 12 May 1967, Gilmour used a fuzzbox, a delay and a bright EQ setting to achieve his signature tone. Pink Floyd's Slide and Light show was one of the first in British rock. The Wall tour featured a 40 feet 12 m high wall, built from cardboard bricks, constructed between the band and the audience in 1977. They employed the use of a large inflatable floating pig, named Algie Waters, identified empathy as a central theme in the lyrics of Pink Floyd. Absence is the key theme for Pink Floyd, going all the way from Paintbox to Comfortably Numb. The Wall's lyrics also explored unrealized political goals and unsuccessful endeavors. Animals is a concept album with political and social themes. The album's characters include the dogs, representing fervent capitalists, the pigs, symbolizing political corruption, and the sheep, who represent the exploited. The lyrics ultimately paint a picture of dystopia, the inevitable result of a world devoid of empathy and compassion. The themes and composition of The Wall express Waters' upbringing in an English society depleted of men after the Second World War. The Wall's protagonist, Pink, is unable to deal with the circumstances of his life and overcome by feelings of guilt, slowly closes himself off from the outside world, inside a barrier of his own making in 2004. MSNBC ranked Pink Floyd number 8 on their list of the 10 best rock bands ever in the same year. The scale of their largest headlining show and the total number of weeks spent on the UK album chart, Rolling Stone, ranked them number 51 on their list. of the 100 greatest artists of all time. View and rank them. The exhibition featured analysis of cover art. Pew named Pink Floyd as the biggest band of all time according to a points system that measured sales of their biggest album. Conceptual props from the stage shows and photographs from Mason's personal archive. It was extended for 2 weeks beyond its planned closing date of 1 October. Thanks for watching the video. See you next time.